Okay, welcome everyone to our Sunday evening Dharma and Sutra talk. And tonight we'll continue to talk about the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra with a focus on the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. And the last session, last Sunday, we had talked about a bit of background on this sutra, the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, or in Chinese, 普贤行愿品, which is also one of the 5 Pure Land Sutras, and the importance of this sutra in Buddhism, particularly in Mahayana Buddhism. For anyone who practices the Mahayana path, the Bodhisattva path, one must also practice the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, particularly the 10 great vows. And we had talked about a little bit about why is it that case. And in today's session, we'll also continue to discuss about that. And we'll also focused first on the first vow and its application in our everyday life. So the Buddha's teachings are actually very practical. It's not just only about theory, about words, about the sutras. The sutra is like a life manual that helps us to guide our life. But really, we also need to practice what's been taught to us by the sutra from the Buddha's words and to apply them in our everyday life. And tonight, that will also be the focus of our discussion. So before we go into the sutra sharing, I'll also invite you to please draw your hands to your heart center, and we'll all read the sutra opening verse together, or recite if you can. So please draw your hands to your heart center. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Flower Adornment Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Flower Adornment Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Flower Adornment Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The unsurpassed, profound, subtle, and wondrous Dharma. It's difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of kalpas. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it. May we understand the true meaning of the Tathagata. Namo Great Practices Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. Namo Amitabha Buddha. So last session, we talked about a little bit about the background of the Avatamsaka Sutra. And we talk about how the Avatamsaka Sutra is the king of all sutras. It's maybe not to be exaggerated. It really can be said to be one of the most important, if not the most important sutra in Mahayana Buddhism. And what's even more important about this sutra is the last chapter, which is what we're going to study. And we had been starting to study the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. And it's also important to note that what we're going to study is only just the last row, the last piece. The practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra is actually really, really long. It's not just like this. Now, if you Google like this sutra, it will come up with, we maybe already think it's long, right? Maybe like 20 something pages of the sutras, but it's actually more than that. This is also just the last session, the last row. And because of the importance of the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, so this sutra has been sort of extracted from the Avatamsaka Sutra, and also from the original practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra to be sort of stand out as a single sutra. Because at that time, when people read this, people thought, okay, this is so important, but this sutra is just too long, too much. People do not have the time to actually study it, let alone to say, to even understand it. So what to do? And easy, you would just take out the most important bit. This will also be easier to help spread the Dharma. And this is also what we're going to do. And not only that, I just take out, I even simplified, just take out the 10 great practices and vows. So if you go and read only the last session on the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, if you Google it, it will just come out. And it's still quite long, extensive for us people today, nowadays. We really don't have so much patience to study all of it. So I just extracted the key sections, particularly the beginning for each of the great vows and practice, so we can all study them. And we also talk about how it's one of the 5 Pure Land Sutras and the great importance in Mahayana Buddhism. Last session, we talk about how all Dharma gates arise from the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's not an exaggeration. This is really the most important sutra, one of the most important sutra in Mahayana Buddhism. This is the first sutra that the Buddha expounded when he first realized enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. For 21 days in meditation to highly enlightened bodhisattvas in the Dharma realm. And this is, of course, a bit more complex, actually much more complex. For those who are interested, you can also Google the Avatamsaka Sutra, and there's a beautiful translation by the famous translator Thomas Clary, but only just 40, I think just 40 chapters, so not the whole thing. And you could already see the complexity of the sutra. So this is not for just ordinary beings to understand. So that's why when the Buddha first came out from the meditation, he did not just talk about this to the ordinary people. He did not just tell people to kneel for and go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. I remember we talked about how towards the end of the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva Samantabhadra also asked all the bodhisattvas to all seek rebirth to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. So all Dharma gates arise from the Avatamsaka Sutra. The Avatamsaka Sutra encompasses all Dharma gates, but it's important to know that all Dharma gates will eventually all return to the Pure Land, regardless of which Dharma gate one enters or one practices. Doesn't matter. In the end, you will all go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. And this is exactly what we are seeing now in Mahayana Buddhism. I won't talk about Theravada Buddhism if people don't believe, they do not really enter into the Mahayana domain. So, but in Mahayana Buddhism, we see that for all the Dharma gates, all different schools and branches, now everybody all start to kneel for and vow to seek rebirth to the Pure Land. It's also due to this sutra. People really believe it's indeed the Buddha's words. Amitabha Buddha exists, and so is the Pure Land. And when we talk about the 10 great practices and vows, we talk about how this is really a must for all bodhisattvas. If you want to realize Buddhahood, why do we practice Buddhism? Why are we here to even bother to listen to any sutra talk or Dharma talk on a Sunday evening, right? When we could just watch the TV and enjoy some popcorn or something. Right? Why do we practice the Dharma? What's the goal of practicing the Dharma? Sometimes people may think, for those who may not understand Buddhism so well, they think, oh, it's just, to do good deeds. So maybe you can get better blessings. A lot of Chinese people also, they think the Buddha just teach people to do good and then to have good merit and good blessings, even good fortune in your life. So this is not wrong, but this is not actually the essence of the Buddha's teaching. If the Buddha were just to tell us to do good, then the Buddha doesn't need to come into this world. Anybody else can do that. Any other religions or practices, they can all do that. You don't actually need Buddhism in this world. We don't need a Dharma in this world if it's just to tell the people to cultivate good, to refrain evil, right? But the essence of the Buddha's teaching is not just about that. Right? It's more importantly to be awakened. Right? Remember, to cultivate good, to refrain from evil, to purify one's mind. That is the teaching of the Buddha. But to purify one's mind, to be completely awakened, to liberate from all sufferings in life. And this is the essence of the Buddha's teaching, right? Most important. And this is also what makes Buddhism maybe stand out from other religions or even practices, right? Because the path of the Dharma is a path for awakening. And what does awakening mean? For Pure Land practitioners, an easy way to understand this is to attain infinite light and life, or to liberate from all sufferings in life, to realize the truth of life and the universe, to realize our Buddha nature, the true nature of who we truly are, all of us. It doesn't matter where we are from, regardless of who we are. We all share this same source, and this source is infinite light and life, no beginning, no end, full Buddhahood, really inconceivable, indescribable by any words. And how can we actually activate that? How to activate the full Buddhahood? And in Theravada Buddhism, they talk about the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, and that if one practices that, one can attain Arhat. And remember, in Mahayana Buddhism, to realize Arhat is not actually the goal yet. Right? To realize self-liberation is not yet the goal. And there's also the path of the Bodhisattva to realize full Buddhahood. Right? To have the mind to not only attain self-liberation, but also to help all beings to realize full enlightenment. Right? That is the goal of the Bodhisattva path. And Mahayana Buddhism also includes the Theravada teachings. It's also like basic fundamentals. So the Buddha's teaching really comes in like a successive order. You will see that it's from the simple and then to the more advanced, just like anything. And when we talk about the Mahayana path, we also talk about the 6 parameters, like giving, observe the precepts, cultivate forbearance or patience, cultivate diligence, be diligent, and to meditate, and then to attain prajna, or the wisdom of shunyata. So for anyone, if you practice the 6 parameters, you can already live a very happy and peaceful life on earth in this lifetime. But remember, we talk about the 10 great practices and vows are really like an upgrade, an extension of the 6 parameters. It's a must for anyone who wants to realize full Buddhahood. If one just practices the 6 parameters, you are also a bodhisattva for anyone who practices the 6 parameters. But if you were to realize the full Buddhahood, to really realize the ultimate potential of being a sentient being, of any being, you must practice the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. This includes for us after we go to the Pure Land. Some people ask, what do people do after we go to the Pure Land? We no longer need to work our ass off for money to, pay off loan or whatever. We no longer need to deal with any of the mundane stuff. You don't even need to go shopping. There's no need to cook anything in the Pure Land. And so what do people do? You can have whatever you want at a mere thought. Will their life be just so boring? Will there be any meaning to the life of the beings in the Pure Land? So some people, they also have some kind of questions like that. So what would people do if you study all the Pure Land Sutras? It will be really clear for us. It's also to practice the great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, to perfect all the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, and to realize full Buddhahood. really anything that you can think of, it will not be away from these vows. Like for a bodhisattva to practice, like all the sutras, including the Pure Land Sutras and also the Infinite Life Sutra also mention the Samantabhadra's vows. So we can really see the importance of these vows. And there are 10 great practices and vows. So we will go through them one by one. And for each session, we'll cover just one vow. So we can get a deeper understanding of this vow and its importance and how to apply them into our life. Okay, so this I already covered a little bit. And last time we also talked about just the background of the Avatamsaka Sutra, the last chapter entering into the Dharma realm. It's about Sudana, like a bodhisattva who generated the unsurpassed bodhicitta, went on a quest for full enlightenment, full Buddhahood, and he visited 53 great teachers. Now the 53 great teachers first begin with Manjusri. When he first met Manjusri, he arrived at the 10th stage of faith. Now for those who may be new to Mahayana Buddhism, I have a video on 52 stages of enlightenment for Bodhisattva path. Right? So you can go and watch that one after the talk, so you'll have a better idea of these different levels of enlightenment for Bodhisattvas. So in Theravada Buddhism, they talk about 4 stages of enlightenment, right? String enterer, once returner, non-returner, and arhat. Whereas in Mahayana Buddhism, we talk about even that beyond 52 stages on the Bodhisattva path, 10 stages of faith, 10 stages of dwelling, 10 stages of practices, 10 stages of transference, 10 stages of grounds, and then equal enlightenment, like really, really high level of enlightenment, like equal, almost equal to the Buddha. And then the 52nd is final Buddhahood. So sometimes you see 51st stages on the Bodhisattva path or 52 stages, depending on whether they include the final Buddhahood as one stage or not. So all these are just the different levels of enlightenment for the Bodhisattvas. And when Sudana first encountered Manjusri, it's from Manjusri he generated the complete faith in the Buddha Dharma. What does that mean? It means that he has absolutely no doubt whatsoever in the Buddha's words. Whatever sutra he reads, there will not be any doubt. This is also not so easy, including even for a lot of Buddhists. Some Buddhists, they would still doubt the Buddha's words. Some Buddhists, if you tell them, the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, maybe, some of the Chan classic sutras to talk about, in the here now, the Pure Land in the here now, it's easy for them to believe. Also, from their level of understanding and their perceptions, it's easier for people to accept if you tell people, you kneel for, and then you have the Pure Land in the here now, you obtain peace of mind in the here now, right? This is also right. But if you tell them about the Amitabha Sutra, the Infinite Life Sutra, you kneel for, and you go and seek rebirth to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land in the West, which is like, hundreds of billions of Buddha lands away from us. To a lot of people, this is really hard to believe. And then they will also question, they will give rise to doubt. Is this real? I don't think it's real because I cannot see. I cannot see with my physical eyes. I cannot see Amitabha Buddha. I cannot see the Pure Land. Therefore, I do not believe. This is what we call doubt, karmic obstacle, one of the greatest karmic obstacle as well. In Buddhism, in Mahayana Buddhism, we talk about 5 main karmic obstacles: greed, anger, ignorance, pride, and doubt. And this doubt is actually common, including for a lot of Buddhists, including even for some Dharma masters. They also have difficulty in believing the existence of the Pure Land and of Amitabha Buddha, also due to they judge the Buddha's words through their current level of understanding, their current level of perceptions. It's like a lot of people, they say to see is to believe, right? I need to actually see it with my own eyes so I can believe. And this is like also another example from Master Rinshan's Dharma talk. Is like, but it's actually not always like that. A lot of things we cannot see doesn't mean that they're not real, doesn't mean that they do not exist. Like the air we cannot see with our physical eyes. It's everywhere. And the air, like without the air, we can't breathe. And have you seen your great grandfather? Maybe not, right? That doesn't mean that he did not exist. And have you seen Mars with your physical eyes? You have not. We have not seen Mars with our physical eyes. We only see maybe Mars from videos, from pictures that the scientists have shot with some telescope for us. And then we believe that because we trust the scientists' words, and we trust this technology, we think it's authoritative. So in that way, that is the basis of our belief Mars indeed exists. But when it comes to the Buddhist words, sometimes people have doubt, but they really shouldn't. Why is that? If we talk about authority, who is actually the most authoritative person, being in the world, in the entire Dharma realm, actually? A fully enlightened being is definitely more authoritative than anybody. If one cannot trust a fully enlightened being's words, then who do we trust? So this is also the basis of how to give rise to faith in the Buddha Dharma. Shakyamuni Buddha in our world, his performance as a prince that gave up absolutely everything that everybody tried to pursue in the world, he already gave up. And there's no way for him to go and lie to us about Amitabha Buddha, about the Pure Land. And if we read all the sutras, the words of the sutras, this wisdom is really unsurpassed. Impossible for any person with any sort of that kind of a petty motive to make up things like that, not possible. And also this Dharma, remember, it has been existed in China for over 1,600 years and much longer before that in India. So the reason why it can still exist today is because there have been lots of people who have sought rebirth to the Pure Land, who have even seen Amitabha Buddha and even the Pure Land, like lots of cases. So there really should be already more than enough evidence for us to generate full faith already. Our faith should be like maybe Sudana, a complete faith, should not even give rise to any doubt, just to base on our current level of understanding of the world. To be honest, we really don't know anything about the universe. Even including the top scientists in the world, they do not know much at all. Whatever they have discovered about the universe is not even like 1/1,000,000th of what the Buddha had talked about in sutras like the Avatamsaka Sutra. Whatever the scientists have discovered, also in quantum physics and all this, you can all find in the Buddha sutras, and with much greater details. And it's really, really incredible. So to generate faith is actually the first step in entering into the Mahayana domain. We must try to generate faith, and we should have already firm faith in the Buddha's words, not to based on just any understanding from our current narrow perceptions, narrow understanding of the world, the universe, and life. We should really trust in the Buddha's words. A Buddha is a completely enlightened being who realizes the truth of life and the universe, which means that he is all-knowing. So there's also another title for the Buddha. We know the Buddha can also be called the world-owner one, or the Tathagata, and also in Chinese, 正遍知, which means that he knows everything completely and rightly. That is also the ability, the capacity at the level of the Buddha. This is really difficult for us, currently unenlightened ordinary being, to understand let alone to say to comprehend the Buddha's level. It's not possible. We cannot comprehend the Buddha's level. But what we can do at least is to trust in the Buddha's words, to trust what the Buddha told us. And someone will say, oh, but the Buddha also said, do not trust my words. You trust your mind, right? It's also a way of convenience because the Buddha is not against anything or anyone. If people don't want to believe in the Buddha is not attached. You don't need to believe in the Buddha's words. You go and try your own way and see. Which was what kind of what I did before when I first encountered Buddhism. The Buddha talk about how life, there's suffering in life and all this. At that time, not Mahayana Buddhism yet, just more like the basic, maybe more from the Theravada teaching, basic Buddhism, Four Noble Truths, attachment, how gives rise to suffering and all this. And at that time, I also had doubt, karmic obstacle for myself. And then I sort of went on the other way, the other extreme. I sort of try to see whether attachment really leads to suffering. Of course, it does. So you can go and test it. You can test the Buddha's theory, and you will see how indeed the Buddha is always right. So really no doubt in the Buddha's words. Completely knows everything past, present, and future. Also knows all the worlds that we don't know, and we also not possible for us to even see in different dimensions and all this, not possible. So it's really hard to believe. So that's why the Buddha, after he realized enlightenment, he did not even teach this. It's also too difficult to believe. And if we even just have a glimpse about what at the level of the Buddha can do, then we know that full Buddhahood is actually worth everything to pursue. More than anything else in this world, in the Saha world. Imagine if you're like the richest person on earth, so what? At the time of death, there's nothing, absolutely nothing you can take with you. All the things that people try to pursue here on earth, this word in Buddhism, illusion. Illusion doesn't mean that they don't exist. It's also not to deny anything, but just illusion just means that they're not permanent. All is impermanent. So really, even if we won the Olympics, so what? When impermanent comes, kind of like we will again realize, oh, what is actually the most important thing for us? There's nothing actually worth pursuing than full Buddhahood. And this has to be, it should be really all beings maybe goal. But of course, not like that. All beings don't think like that, right? There's people maybe don't think like that. But I think like that, and hopefully more people also think like that. To realize really the ultimate potential of a being, to realize infinite light and life, to realize full enlightenment is really our birthright. So exactly how to pursue this? How can we do that? 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. So this is also called the king of all vows amongst all bodhisattvas. And why it's called practices and vows? Because the practice is actually more important than just vows. Otherwise, it just become empty vows. If people say, I vow to do this, I vow to do that, there's no action, nothing follows. It's not a sincere vow. Even for nearful practitioners, that's why we talk about faith, vow, and practice. The practice also sort of embodies your faith and your vows. So they're just not just like empty faith and vow. And for anyone, we also talk about this before, if you nearful, and then you also practice the 10 great practices and vows, you are guaranteed a highest grade of rebirth, for sure. And this will be clearer when we talk about 9 grades of rebirth later, maybe in later sutra sessions. So let's look at the sutras. I just extracted, this is the beginning of the sutra. The full title of the sutra is called the inconceivable state of liberation of the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. We talk about the Buddha state, is really the inconceivable state of liberation. Right? Cannot be conceived with our limited mind. Like even for highly enlightened bodhisattvas, they cannot conceive the Buddha state. Only Buddhas understand the Buddhas. That's why in the Amitabha Sutra, we see who actually praise Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. I mean, also the bodhisattvas, but the sutra, they just mention all the Buddhas from the 6 directions, the 10 directions that praise Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. Because only a Buddha truly understands the Buddha's inconceivable state. Even like at the highest level of enlightened bodhisattvas cannot fully comprehend the inconceivable state of liberation of Buddhas. And also a bit of background here is that, like we talk about how even this sutra is only just the last row. So there's actually much more to this sutra, but we just, nowadays, we only have this because it's the easiest, simpler. Like for those who are interested in reading more, you can also go and check maybe the Taisha Tipitaka to read before this, what happened before this. But if you Google just the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, and this is what you will see. So you can look at the sutra. At that time, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Samantabhadra. So Samantabhadra is not just any Bodhisattva, but Bodhisattva Mahasattva, which means like great enlightened Bodhisattva, like highest level of enlightened Bodhisattva. Having praised the Tathagata's merit and virtue, told all the Buddhas and Sudana, good man, if all the Buddhas of the 10 directions spoke continuously of the Tathagata's merit and virtue for kappas as many as 5 motes of dust in ineffably ineffable numbers of Buddha lands, those virtues could not fully be described. Those wishing to perfect the doors of this merit and virtue should cultivate the 10 vast great practices and vows. So at the beginning, Samantabhadra had actually already praised Tathagata's merit and virtue. There was this extensive text before this that where the Samantabhadra already praised Tathagata's merit and virtue extensively. And then he told Sudana, the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be as well, if all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, so everywhere all the Buddhas spoke continuously of the Tathagata's merit and virtue. For how long? For kappas as many as 5 motes of dust in ineffable numbers of Buddha lands. Cannot be said this time, limitless, for limitless time, infinite time. Those virtues could not be fully described. Still cannot describe Tathagata's merit and virtue, inconceivable. Those wishing to perfect the doors of this merit and virtue should cultivate the 10 vast great practices and vows. What are the 10? The first is to pay homage to all the Buddhas. The second is to praise the Tathagata. The third is to extensively cultivate making offerings. The fourth is to repent of karmic obstacles. The fifth is to rejoice in the merit and virtue. The sixth is to request the turning of the Dharma wheel. The seventh is to ask the Buddhas to remain in the world. The eighth is to constantly study with the Buddhas. The ninth is to constantly be in accord with sentient beings. The 10th is to universally transfer all the merit and virtue. And then Sudana asked, so all these are just the 10 great practices and vows. Sudana asked, great sage, what does it mean to pay homage to all the Buddhas up to and including to universally transfer all the merit and virtue? So Sudana is really nice. He's really asking for all of us, all sentient beings who want to realize Buddhahood. What does it mean? How can I do this? What do you mean by the 10 great practices and vows? And then Bodhisattva Samantabhadra told Sudana, good man, to pay homage to all the Buddhas is explained like this. All the Buddhas, world-honored ones, are as numerous as 5 motes of dust in all Buddha lands in the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time, to the exhaustion of the Dharma realm and empty space. Because of the power of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra's practices and vows, I have a mind of deep faith and understanding of them, as if they were before my eyes. With the karma of my body, speech, and mind completely pure, I constantly pay homage to them. So here, Bodhisattva Samantabhadra explained to Sudana, what does the first vow mean? The first vow, to pay homage to all the Buddhas. So why is this the first vow? It's really the first step, at the first gate to enter towards the path to Buddhahood. So it's explained like this: all the Buddhas. What does it mean, all the Buddhas? In the 10 directions of the 3 periods of time, past, present, and future. So absolutely all Buddhas, past, present, and future, are easy to understand. Past Buddha and present Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, and all the past Buddha. How about the future Buddhas? Where are the future Buddhas? That could be all of us, and actually all sentient beings, because all beings have the Buddha nature. So while it may be easier for us to pay homage or to pay respect to past and present Buddhas, it could be a little bit difficult for most of us even to pay respect to all future Buddhas. All future Buddhas include all beings, currently unenlightened beings, can all be said they are all future Buddhas. Why? Simply because they also share the Buddha nature that is the same in all beings. All the Buddhas, including us, share the same Buddha nature. All the Buddhas in the 10 directions, past, present, and future, share the same Buddha nature. So we are all, in essence, come from the same source. So that is why we should also respect the future Buddhas. This may be easier said than done. To respect, just think about maybe someone that you really dislike at work. I don't know, maybe your boss, or maybe someone in your family even, or your friends. Some people you maybe just like when you first see them, you just do not want to talk to them or whatever. So sometimes it could be difficult for us to respect other people because we still have the mind of separation, a strong mind of separation and attachment also to the ego identity. And sometimes we may even think we are better than others. Well, why should I respect some other people? Or why do they think like that? They act so differently, etc. Right? But if we were actually to realize enlightenment, we actually need to respect all sentient beings, regardless of how they may act like now. Why is that? Because a lot of afflictions nowadays we generate, if you think about it in your daily life, right? If you have afflictions, if you're troubled, afflicted, most of the time, I may not say all the time, but most of the time, it's most likely because maybe we get annoyed by what other people say, or we get annoyed by other people's behaviors. Right? We are very good at picking up others' faults. We're very good at looking at what people may have done wrong instead of trying to see the Buddha nature. Why, when faced maybe the same situation or the same person, the Buddha has no afflictions whatsoever, but why could we have afflictions? Maybe, our grandchildren could be really noisy, naughty, and then we get sort of annoyed. Maybe our partner, why he or she thinks so differently from us, and we get annoyed and all this, right? Because we try to, this is where our ordinary unenlightened mind, I try to focus on separation, also attachment to our own ideas and perceptions. Whereas the Buddha sees the Buddha nature in all beings. If we can try to direct our mind to see the Buddha nature in all beings, and for nearful practitioners, it means to try to see all beings as Amitabha Buddha, really. That's what nearful samadhi is like. When you attain nearful samadhi, you see everyone as Amituofo, everything as Amituofo. So you will see everyone as Amituofo. That's why Amitabha Buddha's Dharma body, what's Dharma body? It's also Buddha nature. Is everywhere. When we say the Dharma body, it also means the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature exists in all things and all beings. Why the Buddha has no afflictions? Why the Buddha can attain peace of mind in every moment? It's because while trying to see the differences, the separations, or to generate afflictions, the Buddha sees the Buddha nature in all beings. And this is really practical. And this is really good for us, actually. Imagine maybe, I think of maybe someone you find really annoyed, maybe currently in your life, whether it's your colleague or someone in your family, whatever. Remember, they also have the Buddha nature. They are also the beings that Amitabha Buddha will save to the Pure Land if they want to go. So if we can see the Buddha nature in others, then this can help us to develop also more understanding, more compassion, more kindness, which will also definitely reduce our afflictions. All afflictions are actually self-generated. We may complain, oh, it's because of my wife did this, my daughter did this, my husband did this, so I feel afflicted, they are so annoyed. No, it's not because of that. It's because your mind chooses to think like that. So if we can try to see the Buddha nature in others, then that will really greatly expand our heart. And that's also where it gives rise to compassion. It's also due to ignorance. Everyone makes mistakes. It's also due to ignorance. We also are ignorant, ordinary, unenlightened beings. So we also make mistakes. And other people also find us annoying too. But if we were to really attain peace of mind in our everyday life, and also world peace, actually, there's no world peace if there's no individual peace. World peace comes from collective peace of mind. If everyone or most beings in the world can attain peace of mind, then there is world peace. Unfortunately, our world is very much full of separation, because we only focus maybe on the faults in others, focus on too much of the differences in others. But we forget that the Buddha told us after he realized enlightenment, how incredible is that the Buddha nature actually exists in all beings. So if there's anything that we all share the same in common, it doesn't matter where we are from, or even what religion people may belong to, or what practice they do, color of skin, etc. The Buddha nature is what we all share in common. If we can remember that, then this will definitely help us to obtain a much more peace of mind in our life, less afflictions. So next time, when other people, maybe you feel that do something really annoying to you, and just remember, this person also has the Buddha nature. And in that way, they are also future Buddha. So we should also respect, acknowledge the Buddha nature. So we respect the Buddha nature of all beings like that. How about if the being is like, terrorists are really, really terrible, horrible, evil people in the world? Can we still generate this kind of respect? I'm not saying to respect the evil deeds that people do, right? But we still respect the Buddha nature. Although they could be maybe the worst, most evil person in the world. But this person still has the Buddha nature. And even for all of us, if we've been in the cycle of reincarnation for so long, most likely we had also committed really, really horrible evil deeds. The 5 gravest offenses, maybe we will also be in the hell realm, etc. Who knew, right? So because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they never give up in trying to help save sentient beings. They do not judge. They do not judge people's behaviors now, because the Buddha know that they also have the Buddha nature. It's just due to ignorance. It's like someone who are drunk and then they become silly. But you will not really be sort of calculated with people who are drunk, right? You will not be like too serious with people who are drunk. You know that the truth of who he is the future Buddha as well. So that's why we should also try to respect all beings. So of course, not so easy to do that. And the patriarch Yingguang, in his letters, he says, I try to see everyone else as a bodhisattva. He did not say Buddha because maybe he thought it's too difficult for us to even to see others as a bodhisattva and not to say Buddha. And maybe someone just hit you and then you think, oh, he's a Buddha bodhisattva. He tries to help me to actually maybe get rid of the attachment to the body, etc. So if we can generate this kind of positive mindset, and then we really see the Buddha nature in others, or the bodhisattva lower. If for you it's like too difficult to think of someone you dislike as Amitabha, and you can lower that a little bit. Try to see everyone else also as a bodhisattva. In that way, we will not generate much afflictions in our life at all. Most of our afflictions are because we see how other people do something wrong, and then we get really angry, we get really annoyed, etc. So all afflictions are actually, in essence, self-generated. It's just other people, other situations that act as a mirror image to yourself to reflect your attachment to the ego self and also to your own perceptions and to separation. Whereas the Buddha really sees everyone as the Buddha, and this is really what we should try to learn. And of course, it's much easier said than done. So it also needs practice. Not easy to say to respect all beings, but at least to try not to be in contempt of others. Doesn't matter what kind of behaviors or speech that we currently see other people. It's really easy for us to judge others based on their behaviors, their speech, etc. I try not to be in contempt of others and to acknowledge their Buddha nature. And this will also help us to really expand our heart, our mind, to generate compassion and more understanding. With more compassion, understanding, peace and love, so we can really live a much happier and peaceful life. Yeah, and this is also really like a habit that we need to cultivate. And sometimes it's really difficult for us to sincerely actually respect other people from our heart. Some people particularly maybe. So it's a habit, at least maybe through our speech. I will try to speak nicely also to others. I try not to be mean to others. It's also a habit that needs to cultivate, not only in all sentient beings, also non-sentient beings. I really try to extend this to us, the whole of the environment. People also like to hear nice things. If you praise others, the second vow will say to praise the Tathagata, also because all beings have the Buddha nature that worth us to acknowledge. If someone in this life, say maybe you just first met and then somehow other people, they just maybe don't like you. This could also be the karma that you had with that person. It was not good. Maybe in the past you disliked that person, you said something not good to him, and then in this life you met again, and then it's the other way around. So in that way, we also try not to hold grudge, not to be angry with anyone. Doesn't matter what other people may think or say about us. I just acknowledge the Buddha nature and try to also respect the Buddha nature, at least not be in contempt of others, and to develop more understanding and compassion. With this, our life will actually be much easier. I guarantee that. Bodhisattva Samantabhadra guarantees that. So we can also begin with just the people around us, easier. For us, like parents, family, friends, I respect all of them. And also, it's important actually for us to respect others. In the future, if you were to become a Buddha, you want to help save a lot of sentient beings, maybe all sentient beings in the 10 directions, then you actually need to develop a good karmic connection with others. So even starting now, from now on, try to treat everyone around you nicely. Say nice things. Maybe sometimes we don't mean it from our heart, but at least from our speech, we can try to adjust. And then slowly, we can actually generate this sincere respect to others, because really from this knowing of the Buddha nature. And there is also a Pure Land doctrine. In Chinese Buddhism, it's called the 3 Blessings of Pure Acts. This is also from the Visualization Sutra, and which we'll discuss maybe another time, maybe after this session on the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. It's also quite important. And it also talk about this to pay filial piety towards our parents, etc. Sometimes people think, oh, you just need to nian for faith and vow, and then that's it. You don't need to do anything else in our life. You can be maybe commit many evil deeds, doesn't matter. Not saying this is like wrong, but like this is really not how we should teach or share the Pure Land Dharma. It can generate a lot of misunderstanding, misperceptions. Sometimes people think, oh, Amitabha Buddha will save even those people who commit, the worst evil deeds. Maybe I have not done enough evil deeds. I might as well just do a few more, right? That's not how we should share the Dharma, and that's also not the Buddha's intention. Right? Amitabha Buddha has infinite compassion in that he will not even give up those who commit the worst possible deeds. Again, also because Amitabha Buddha sees the Buddha nature in all beings. But that's not to say for Pure Land practitioners, we should just go on and committing all the evil deeds. We should really try to cultivate good, to respect the people around us, and to practice the 3 blessings of pure acts, which also include to pay filial piety towards our parents, to cultivate the 10 good deeds, etc. So through cultivating good and nian for and go to the Pure Land, we will also attain a much higher grade of rebirth, and also we will attain a much peaceful and happier life in the here and now. So in each and every Buddha land, I manifest bodies as numerous as 5 motes of dust in ineffably ineffable numbers of Buddha lands. Each body pays homage to the Buddhas everywhere, as many as the 5 motes of dust in ineffably ineffable numbers of Buddha lands. When the realm of empty space is exhausted, my homage will be exhausted. However, the realm of empty space is inexhaustible. My homage will never be exhaustible. In the same way, when the realms of living beings, the karma of living beings, and the afflictions of living beings are exhausted, my homage will be exhausted. But the realms of living beings, the karma of living beings, and the afflictions of living beings are inexhaustible. Therefore, my homage is inexhaustible. It continues in thought after thought without ceasing. My body, speech, and mind never tire of doing these deeds. So Bodhisattva Samantabhadra's vow is really like saying the pay homage to all the Buddhas, including us, even future Buddhas, all beings, absolutely, will never be exhausted. With this kind of mindset, how can one not have a good and happy life in the here now, and also after we go to the Pure Land? How can one not attain infinite light and life with this kind of mindset? The kind of a pure thoughts, afterthought without ceasing. My body, speech, and mind never tire of doing these deeds. But really the inconceivable state of liberation. Tonight we'll finish the first vow on the 10 great vows, and next Sunday we'll continue on the second vow to praise the Tathagata. So thank you, everyone. So let's just do a merit transfer together. So may the resulting merit and virtue be distributed everywhere without discrimination. May we all generate the unsurpassed bodhicitta and be born in the land of peace and bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amituofo.